Was soll ich von diesen Jugendschweinen noch ertragen? Jag ich mir eine Kugel durch den Kopf.
Welcome, my friends. Kevin Shirker here, the Indiana Jones nerd yet again. And today I'm here to reveal my latest Indiana Jones fan edit, Indiana Jones and the Empire of Evil. So, first of all, the best way to experience it is to just go watch it. I can't post it to YouTube, unfortunately. But if you like, I can direct you to my Discord, and you should be able to find it through there. So, Indiana Jones and the Empire of Evil was a rumored title for what ultimately became Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I don't believe it was ever actually a working title or an officially, or like that anyone involved with the project actually came up with it. I believe this was just like, somebody on the outside came up with this as a rumor. But it's a title that resonated with fans. It's very like, it gets right to the point, kind of like Temple of Doom, for example, as a title. And so there have been a number of fan projects since which have used this title. But I think that my project here makes the best use of this title. And so I guess that's pretty much my intro. So I'm going to start telling you about this project. Basically, the gist of it is that it's an edit of the Indiana Jones movies, in particular his encounters with the Germans, with the Nazis, and I am supplementing it with a few little clips of Hitler from movies like Inglourious Bastards and Downfall. And those scenes that I use are, kind of add a little comedy to it. They're not like, anything like really serious or graphic or anything like that. So it's adding to the fun, I think. It's trying to give a new experience to Indiana Jones. It is a bit long. If you include the credits, it's 3 hours, 40 something minutes here. But without the credit, before the credits, it's like 3.5 hours. 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours. So I think that's pretty much the gist of it. I could probably edit down further, but I don't know. I just don't really have the time. I just wanted to put this out there as it is. So now I'm going to go through some of the changes and tell you what this is all about. So, of course, every Indiana Jones movie needs to start with a mountain transition, which is something that Dial of Destiny did not do. And one of my first ideas was that it's going to be... I wanted to make a re-edit of Dial of Destiny that put the ending scene at the beginning, because I wanted to use clouds in order to match the mountain for the transition. And I think the way that it worked out really nicely. I found a video that was on YouTube that was like flying through the clouds, and I found this moment in it, and it matches really nicely. And yeah, this is a great little moment here. Like, if you look at my edit, there are like a few little bits where I do some significant work, and then you're gonna get long stretches where it's just like straight up the original content. So this is definitely one of my favorite edits here. We go through the clouds, and then it kind of takes us straight into this moment. And I'm just using like a wind sound effect in order to make it really nice and smooth. So I thought that was pretty effective there. And then so the opening scene is Indy at the end of Dial of Destiny, when they go back to ancient Syracuse, the Battle of Syracuse, a great little scene here. And then I have an interesting little transition to time jump us here. So when the plane crashes, we cut to... We have this overhead shot, and then we see a bird, sort of matching like bird's eye view idea. And then we get a sword. Well, sorry, I jumped too fast. But then we get very briefly this little sword here, which for a second you're like, oh, it's somebody in the Battle of Syracuse, like with their sword, they're coming. But no, actually, it's Indy 2,000 years later, and that's the way I do my time jump, which I think is pretty interesting. And so this becomes like the second half of kind of the opening scene. So we have the entire bridge fight here for Indiana Jones, and only after that do we get this nice little transition to Barnett College. And that's where, we'll get the exposition, and a lot of the film goes from there. So first, kind of my explanation for why there's like two opening scenes. So the idea is that the first part here is like the opening image, which kind of sets up gives you a hint of the mystery and the stakes that will be coming later in the film. And I kind of equate this to like, well, first let me mention, and then this part right here, now we're actually meeting Indiana Jones, the character, as he is going to be from this part of the movie going forward, he's going to progress from this point. So, like, I think about maybe kind of some weird examples, but like the Power Rangers movie from 2017, like the opening 2 minutes were, Bryan Cranston as the Red Ranger, takes place in the distant past, and we get like a brief little look at that, and only then do we skip ahead to the modern times and we meet the main characters as they are. Another example would be like a few James Bond movies, such as The Spy Who Loved Me, where we start with the submarine being attacked. We kind of get understand the stakes and see like a kind of a mystery of like what's going on here, and then we cut to Bond a few minutes later, and he has his action-packed opening scene, and that establishes his character. So we're watching this first part here, and it's kind of like who is this character? Who are these guys? What's going on here? And overall, this is the chronological order of Indiana Jones encountering Nazis in his life in the films. Because technically the first time that Indiana Jones encounters a Nazi is here in the Battle of Syracuse, which he time traveled to. Of course, in his life, it was the last time that he encountered them, but I don't know. So that's kind of my reasoning behind doing it like that. I think it's kind of interesting. I know some of my ideas are a little bit wacky, but I'm pretty happy with this one, how it turned out. And then obviously we get this nice transition, and we get here to Barnett College. That's the transition there. And I did trim out a few seconds. You'll see here, it just cuts right there. I did trim out a few seconds of Indy talking about Belloc and the Chachapoyan idol, because I don't have that opening scene here anymore. I'm just trying to give like a different experience to Indiana Jones. Yes, I could have used the Chachapoyan idol scene in this opening instead of Temple of Doom to set up Indy's character, but just for the sake of creating a different type of experience for Indiana Jones fans, I did it this way, and I think it works pretty well. Again, like, maybe goes on a little too long, and a lot of the stuff, like I said, I could trim down a little bit, But yeah, I just wanted to put it out there. Because there's so many possibilities for this edit, and I don't even know where to begin. And I really need to focus on some other things right now. So I just wanted to put it out there. All right. So anyway, so then we get the scene where they're talking about they're gonna set up that the Nazis are looking for artifacts, and eventually they'll start talking about the Ark of the Covenant here. So what I did, we see he says the Nazis have had teams of archaeologists all over the world looking for religious artifacts, and then we immediately cut to Hitler from Inglourious Bastards, and this is a scene in this movie. Of course, I added new subtitles, which is not going to match what is actually being said. So if you speak German, this experience might not totally work for you. But he basically says that, it's important that we get our hands on these artifacts, religious artifacts. Like he says, the Ark of the Covenant, the Holy Grail, the Lance of Longinus. They must be in our hands if we are to succeed. And then we cut back here. Hitler's a nut on the subject. He's crazy. That's how that scene goes. So there are only a few little inserted scenes of Hitler here in this movie. Because, again, there are so many possibilities because he has been portrayed in so many movies. And, I mean, I don't know. Like, I just don't have time to go through, like, every possible idea that I could do for this thing. So that's why I just, I'm releasing it the way it is. So we cut back here. We get our only map transition is here. This is sort of obviously like the exposition sort of for the whole movie is what I just showed you, that they're setting up that Hitler is after these artifacts. So it doesn't just set up the Ark of the Covenant. It sets up that the Nazis are going to be after multiple artifacts over these next few years. So we meet Marion, and we get this first battle at the Raven. And in order to prevent this from being like a 6-hour movie, I tried to, cut back a little bit. So the way I did this was I cut from "I'm your goddamn partner" to her being thrown into the well and yelling at him, because I think it's kind of funny. Maybe a little bit too funny, but it sort of serves the purpose of getting the story moving a little bit. And we do miss the part where Indy gets the Grail out of gets the Ark of the Covenant out of the well here. I mean, you can see the box obviously later, but that's kind of the only downside about this. But then the story's going to continue from here as normal. So we'll get the flying wing fight, and we're going to get the great action scene. And then we get all the stuff on the Bantu Wind up until the climax, and we see the Ark opening. Again, I probably could have cut this down a little more, but I don't know. I decided to leave it just as is. I think it kind of works either way, because in this way, the way it's edited is it's sort of like a comprehensive look of Indy's struggles against the Nazis over the course of several years, and we get a pretty complete version of his side of the story. Again, it could be edited down to under 2 hours, maybe, but yeah, I don't know. It would definitely help to make this like a more unique kind of Indiana Jones experience. But for now, this is what I went with. So this stuff happens, and now instead of going to Washington D.C., we're going to cut directly to the Ark. There it is, being closed, being sealed up, being put into the warehouse, Area 51, of course, as we all know. And then we get 99999, which is I think a great transition here. It's obviously a moment from Inglourious Bastards as well. This is the second and final time we use footage from Inglourious Bastards, and this is a deliberately funny portrayal of Hitler, and it kind of over the top hand gestures and everything. And the way I transition this here is, mark my words, he will never better me again. I want our best people working arduously until I have my artifacts. And then we cut to his people working arduously. And that's how we transition into The Last Crusade. And that's a great, moment for Indy to say that. Perfect. I mean, that's like the exact moment in Last Crusade that we find out that it is the Nazis who are back. So I think this was a good choice to cut in there. And then obviously we have to have this scene in Last Crusade where Indy actually comes face to face with Hitler. And we have everything, is unedited up until this point. And then we got to get that moment right there. And in the film, there's like a wipe that comes from this side, and it transitions them into the airport. But I'm also using a wipe, and I'm transitioning it into the tank chase. So now we get the entire tank chase. So just like Raiders, we got like that the massive chase scene. Obviously, Raiders has the truck chase here. And then Last Crusade is all about this tank chase. Two of the best action scenes ever in any film. And I did add this little subtitle here. I know I've seen a version that had this subtitle. I don't know if it was on my VHS copy or if it was the DVD copy, but some older version, or maybe it was on TV, some older version I've seen, there is this subtitle. But for most versions of the film, this subtitle does not appear for whatever reason. So I did decide to put that back in there. As I mentioned, I did put the subtitles for these scenes here, but I forgot there's a few parts here where there should be subtitles, but I forgot to do them. But I think it's okay without them for now, at least. And so Last Crusade continues. We get this sort of, these movies, we have like obviously Indy fighting the Nazis is one aspect, and Indy going after the supernatural artifacts is one object. Even though there's not many Nazi characters left at this point of the film. And so those are two things that I wanted to keep as much as I could. We also have like the Indy's like relationship moments, stuff with Marion here, which probably could be cut, stuff like that. But for now, I kept a lot of these things. And again, I could edit it down further, but I don't know. Alright, so the way that I transition out of this section of the film is Elsa, who is kind of sort of a Nazi. She's obviously in a gray area in this film, but I decided to keep it going to her death, especially because we need the resolution of Henry being saved. So it was important to keep that. So the way I did it is we get this moment where she falls, and that's kind of the last villain being killed in this film. And so now for sure Hitler's thirst for the Grail is going to be unquenched. And now we fade to black and we fade back in, and we get a nice long time jump here. And this is Germany 1945, and we see Hitler coming out of his bunker, and he sees that, Berlin's in rubble, as Indy later will say. Now, again, there's so many possibilities here if I wanted to, do more creative things here. My original idea was that there was going to be a big section right here, which would show the progression of World War II and show Indiana Jones in certain situations a little bit. There are two movies that Harrison Ford made before Raiders of the Lost Ark that have him going up against Nazis taking part in World War II. One is Hanover Street, which I've never seen, and one is Force 10 from Navarone. And Force 10 from Navarone is, it's an Alistair McLean film. It's a sequel to The Guns of Navarone, which I really like. The Guns of Navarone. That's one of my favorite action movies. And what I would like to do is somehow incorporate Mac, because Mac from Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is a character who did fight alongside Indy in World War II, and we didn't get to see that ever. So I would ideally like to somehow incorporate him into that, but that's not an easy thing to do. It's very time consuming to do. So I decided to just use this transition here to jump, and all of the on-screen text from the films is like the actual fonts that they use, and thank you to Connor for helping me find the correct fonts for those. And so this is just a very brief little insert. This is our first of two moments from Downfall, and it just transitions right away into this moment. Now, for the beginning of this section, which is from Dial of Destiny, of course, there were some on-screen credits, so I just cut around those a little bit. So we go straight from this into that blowing up, and then Indy looks quickly, and then we cut to Basil. So we cut out two credits that happen there, and then the other credit that happens is the title, which comes here. And as you can see, it's not too bad. I didn't cut around it. I merely took a frame and freeze framed it and stretched it out and cropped it to just a little bit. And you can kind of tell if you're looking for it, but it's obvious that I did that, especially when the light flashes. But for the most part, your brain kind of accepts it. It's because the movie's going kind of quick. So it's just a nice little look at all these guys, and it kind of works enough. I meticulously went through and redid all of these on-screen texts here. Like I said, I forgot to do the opening scene, but I'm not too concerned about that. And so this scene is going to continue as it does in the film. The entire opening sequence from Dial of Destiny here, up until the very last frame of the World War II segment. And of course, this section, ties in with the beginning of the film, so we kind of get a little hint of how that comes about, but we don't show the rest of Dial of Destiny. And instead, at this point, we're almost 2.5 hours into the movie here, so we're going to bookend this thing with this great moment from Downfall. So, I'm sure you guys know all about this, the Hitler rant parodies. This is a scene from Downfall where Hitler finds out that basically he's lost the war, and he has like an epic temper tantrum. And there have been some I think people have made regarding Indiana Jones. They made Hitler rant parodies of everything. I mean, this was probably back around like 2009 or so when this became popular. I'm not sure exactly what year it was. And so obviously I, change these to make them relevant to Indiana Jones. When my train with the lance comes, I'll counterattack easily. But these, like, the train will not be arriving. It was captured by Indiana Jones. And then, Hitler goes into his rant. A really quick mention, though. So Thomas Kretschmann, who plays the German colonel here, this guy, Thomas Kretschmann is in this film, Downfall, and he's actually in this scene. So I did make a few cuts just to remove him. So you'll notice, like, we see this little bit of Hitler first, and then we see it again here, between with the map section in between it, and then there's another bit right here where he's right here, and so the camera usually starts on him and follows, but I just cut around that a little bit. It wasn't too hard to do, and there's some nice moments here, like, obviously, I'm sure you guys have seen these, so you know that they're kind of funny. And so I wasn't afraid to add a little humor here. You guys know I like my wacky ideas. So Hitler's like, "You fools have all failed me," and this guy's like, "My Führer, I brought you the Chachapoyan idol." The Chachapoyan idol, of course, is the famous gold idol from the opening scene of Raiders of Lost Ark that Belloc steals from Indy and allegedly sells it in Marrakesh. So he's like, "I brought you this idol." Hitler's like, "The Chachapoyan idol is garbage. Its eyes don't even move," which is a great reference to what they wanted originally in the film. Was they had like some motors inside the idol and the eyes were gonna move and follow Indy, but it didn't make it into the final film. So I thought that's a pretty funny one. And he's like, "I went all the way to Marrakesh." Another fun reference that I put in here. Let me see, where is it? And of course, it mentions that he tricked me into the signing the Grail, which is a fun one. Oh, okay, here we go. So, I do make two references to expanded media of Indiana Jones, and one is from Emperor's Tomb. Here Hitler says, "One time he shut down half my Luftwaffe single-handedly from a moving gondola." This is a reference to Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb. Scene takes place in China, actually, where Indy's on an aerial gondola lift and shoots down like tons of planes in this 5 to 10 minute sequence, and so I thought that would be good. And that's like if we take Emperor's Tomb as like a serious canonical part of Indiana Jones, then that's like one of his most important triumphs, because Indy defeats a ton of Nazis in that movie. Like, to me, if we count it as like canon, that's the one where Indy defeats the most of Hitler's ranks, and maybe because of that, so many other triumphs later were possible, which is an interesting thought that I have. And then I also mentioned Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis very briefly. He even stopped me from finding Atlantis, so that's a fun little reference for you there. And then the way we end it, "This fedora-wearing swine is the bane of my existence. I hate Indiana Jones." And it's just a hard cut, boom, to the credits, which I think is pretty fun. And I redid the credits a little bit here, and you'll notice, so we have Harrison Ford to start, and then we have the three actors who played Hitler, since he's kind of like the secondary character in this edit. And then I put in everybody who are in the scenes that I used. And I gave Ke Huy Quan the "and" credit, which I think is very nice. And of course, John Williams had to be in there as well. And then I did add one little thing at the end. I do like stingers. Even before the Marvel movies did them, I always thought that stingers were fun. Like Ferris Bueller is a good example. And so, since I didn't use anything from Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, I thought this would be a good moment to put in the nuclear explosion here, and we see that Indy has entered the nuclear age. Kind of gives you a tease of like there's another adventure if you want to go watch that one next. And that's it. And yes, please, you must own a copy of all of these films, Indiana Jones and Glorious Bastards and Downfall, in order to watch this film. So please support the original filmmakers in doing that. And that's pretty much what I got for you. So definitely let me know your thoughts about this. Like I said, it could definitely be cut down a little more, but those things take time and energy, and I really need to focus on some other things in my life right now. So I'm putting it out there. I definitely want to see any comments that you guys have about this, any suggestions that you have, and if this video becomes very popular, then maybe I can come back and make some changes on this in the future. But for now, I'm just putting it out there and letting you guys enjoy it. So once again, definitely hit the like and subscribe for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I wish you all fortune and glory. Bye-bye.